Hi everybody. When I left the tutorial last and having completed it, I said I hadn't actually done the dirt or damage model yet, so I hadn't covered that. Well, since then I've had a bash at it. It's pretty straightforward, so I thought I'd include it here. I also used it as a way of adding extra detail. So I use this original, what I call the final model, as my low poly. I then went in, add a bit more detail, pushed and pulled some verts around to create the damage models and save them out. Theoretically, you could get away with creating a damage model for this, but the higher verts meant that I had a separate model for my high and very high, and just give a bit more smoothness to the damage. But you could certainly try it on this one if you had a mind. And a lot of the work is actually done in your texture painter or your texture editor, adding the dirt and damage maps. And it's only really the pulling of the polys that matters here. You could start with either the final model and work from there, or you could actually create your damage model at the point where you start to think about separating out all your objects from the one initial thing, because you've basically got to put it together in order to get the damage matching up, and that's what I'm going to show now. So first things first, rotate everything back so it's easier to deal with. So basically putting it back on there. What I'll do basically is take the body, the glass and the details and hide everything else. And now basically the first thing is to add additional geometry, and I'll go into solid mode. And this is really normally just as simple as adding loop cuts. So again, I'm not running the keys here to see, so you can see what I'm doing, because I'm assuming at this point you'll be familiar enough with what you're doing to be able to do this without having to look at what keys I'm pressing. So again, just adding a bit of texture. It's just providing me with enough detail to be able to push and pull some verts around, basically. So that's the glass done. So you do the skin with the same sort of thing, and for the skin basically all I did, I just selected everything and did a really simple subdivide. I wasn't too concerned with tidying everything up, so that's enough to sort of do that and come out of there. There we go. I'm happy with that. And then with this, it was just a question of, again, applying a few extra cuts. Just to give me something to work on, and here I would have just giving me somewhat to be able to deform the back end. Same here. As you can see, I'm not being precious about this, I'm just giving myself a bit of extra polygons to work with. And likewise here, I just... Now what I'm not doing here, by the way, is I am not using symmetry, simply because I've already set up my UV maps and I don't want to muck them up, so I'm just doing all of this by hand. It's not exactly that difficult, and it's not exactly slow to do, so... This is nearly done now. I mean, you could, if you wanted, tidy your geometry up a tad after this, but frankly I'm not bothering, because it's all going to get mucked up in the end anyway, so it's not really an issue. Just subdivide those. Actually, I'm just gonna give this a bit more. I'm not going to call that done, frankly. Not bothering that much with the interior. It's just giving me some points on the actual bodywork to play with. So there's my base model, just with added polygons just for the work. So now what I do is I select again those three, duplicate them, move them to another layer. You notice I didn't bother selecting the wheels, I'm not deforming the wheels. And then now what I'll basically do, select the details, invert the selection, select the details again, join it all back into one object, which at that point also very handily puts both UVs into the one object. Then just go into edit mode, deselect everything, switch this on, use enable rather than connected, because of course your screen, your skin and your body are not all actually joined, and so I just make that enable instead, and then just in point mode, medium point, just select a point, G to move, use your scroll wheel or page up, page down to alter your point of influence, and then just start pulling bits and bobs around to damage your car. So just carry on doing this as you see fit, basically. Obviously I'm not being particularly delicate here. You can think more about how you want to damage your car. But I'm just making a mess, basically. Beat it up a little. And so that's basically it. Say just there's your car damaged. Pretty ugly. That's fine. So now then I'll just select my glass just as I would for the normal procedure of separating it out. Select that. Select my bodywork, again making sure to include the panels which belong with the bodywork within the UV map, so separate that as a selection. Come out. Now we rename that from dbody to underscore dbody. Hide that. Rename the glass to underscore gbody. Hide that. And of course, rename this to underscore sbody. Unhide everything. So there's your damage. So then all we do is select everything from there, move that back into the original layer. So we have everything. Set your pivot point back to your 3D cursor. Make sure you get everything selected. RX minus 90. Control A. Apply rotation and scale. And that's it. Then you can export that under a different name. So we can export Collada, and I can export that as my quick and dirty damage and dirty. So export that. So that's that. In terms of packaging it up, all you need to do is take that, use your original model for your main body, and use this model for your high and very high. The rest of the packaging is identical. The only difference is, where originally we had a blank image for our dirt and our damage, now within GIMP or Photoshop we have our skin diffuse there as normal, and then we have a damage map, which is, I mean, in my case is literally basically just a cloned picture of some crumpled foil, and all I've done then is just basically edited the alpha map to reflect the transparency using things like dirt brushes. So the result is that it looks like that, and all you do is you basically use a copy of your original skin as a guide for where you want to apply that damage, and then save that out as skindamage.dds, again as a DXT5 with MIP maps. And basically exactly the same process is then done for the dirt map, which is just cloned dirt, and again just using dirty brushes in order to get the final result, which again goes over where your skin is. And you just repeat exactly that procedure for the damage on your details, and they're saved out as details damage and details dirty accordingly. Then you just, when you're about ready to package, then you've just got those in rather than an actual blank one. So if we look, I think that one actually has, as you can see, yeah, that's got a blank image for both the skin damage and dirty, and details damage and dirty, whereas now the details and damage for each have an appropriate image map. That is it. The rest of the procedure, pulling it into Trackmania, and everything remains the same. The whole process of converting it into a model pack, and going into the paint editor and renaming it, and then copying across your diffuse. And again, you only copy across the skin diffuse. Everything but the skin diffuse and the icon have been built into the model pack. And now if I go into Trackmania, because I've run the import on it and gone through all of that procedure, again, this isn't designed to go over there, it's just designed to show you what you do to get your damage and dirt. So I can go into my editors, paint a car. So there's my car, Control A to stop it, H to show the model. And again, using the same illumination map as my original. Everything's fine with the wheels. And then all I do is I do a Control I to show the dirt, a Control D to show the damage. That's it. That's all there is to it. So it's not that difficult. The key thing to remember is when you're actually editing the model, make sure you always add the initial geometry to the original model before you start to muck about with pulling and pushing anything, because if the vertex count for the damaged model is different to the vertex count for the original model, you will get an error when you pull it into Trackmania, because basically it doesn't add up, so they have to be exactly the same vertex count. I haven't bothered with the damage for the wheels. I'm not sure if you can do them. Personally don't see the point, but anyway, you can give that a go if you so wish. And that's that. I hope it was of use.